at first glance, Ashveil looks an easy pull. He has strong follow-up attack mechanics, solid team buffs, and enough damage to catch people's attention. But once you look at his situation more carefully, it becomes clear that his banner is way more dangerous than it seems. So let us discuss the reasons why people skip him, and at the same time, why people still want to spend their stellar jades for this gentleman. Okay, let's dive into it. Alright, let's begin with Ashveil's kit highlights. So Ashveil is a lightning hunt character, and at his core, he clearly belongs to the follow-up attack archetype. He has two different stack systems. The first is charge stacks, which are required for his follow-up attacks. And the second is gluttony stacks, which increase the extra damage dealt by his enhanced follow-up attacks. His skill also places bait on an enemy, which causes the target to become the focus of his follow-up attacks. As long as the bait stays active on the field, Ashveil can inflict a defense reduction on all enemies. And that defense reduction is no joke. Even at base level, it can go as high as 40%. On top of that, he also offers utility to the team. Besides the defense debuff, he can provide crit damage buffs to allies, including bonus crit damage, specifically for follow-up attacks. So overall, he really feels like a hybrid sub DPS and support unit. That role fits him well because he does not just buff the team, he also boosts his own follow-up damage. The more gluttony stack he builds, the stronger his follow-up attacks become. So in simple terms, Ashveil is a character with multiple ways to deal damage while also bringing meaningful buffs to the team, especially for follow-up based comps. Okay, now let's move on into why people want to skip him. The first and biggest reason is version 4.2. I know most of the style players enjoyers are F2P players or even small spenders, and you guys have probably saved up a lot of jades from previous patches and potentially have been waiting for 4.2 to come, where the main push is going to be the new character from the new path. Because of that, anything that is not directly tied to the big 4.2 push is basically an automatic skip for you. And since Ashveil is a follow-up attack unit who does not really connect with Elation characters coming later in version 4, whether that's Eva or Silverwolf 999, I just don't see a reason to spend on him if you really have set your mind to invest in Elation. So if follow-up is not really your thing and you care more about Elation, that's something you should seriously think about. Especially because we are looking at 2 Elation units now, and the 2 more Elation related characters during the anniversary period. Still, Ashveil is definitely worth discussing because a lot of people are considering whether or not he's worth summoning. The second reason is even simpler. Maybe you want to skip him because you don't even have a proper follow-up attack team. Sure, you guys could technically own a few free options like Dr. Ratio or Hunt March 7 and even Topaz, since she's basically a free unit. But without Fei Xiao, who is currently the strongest main follow-up DPS, your hope for this archetype has been shattered to bits. So if you don't even have the proper team for the archetype, then what exactly would be the point of pulling Ashveil? It gets even harder to justify after the beta adjustments. Since his damage was reduced, he's no longer as convincing as a main DPS. If he had remained strong enough to work as a hyper carry, then maybe you could have considered pulling him and just building around him with the supports you already owned. But now that he leans much more heavily on needing a proper follow-up team, that reason basically disappears. The third reason is not really my own personal one, but I think it could still be a valid reason for a lot of players to skip him. Right now, Ashveil does not look like a true main DPS of the new follow-up archetype. Based on Morty's rumor, which is considered very credible, that actual main DPS is expected to arrive near at the end of version 4. So if you don't already own an established follow-up unit like Fei Xiao, then pulling Ashveil right now feels kind of inefficient. The issue is that just like Topaz back when she first came out, Ashveil does not really have his ideal partner yet. Topaz become much more complete since Dr. Ratio arrived, and Ashveil seems to be in that same awkward spot where he looks promising but the teammate who truly unlocks him may only come later. If you look at the more recent follow-up DPS units, there really are not that many obvious perfect match right now. March does not fully count here, and while characters like Tribi or Cypher do have follow-up mechanics, but they don't exactly solve his main issue. The latest true main DPS option is Fei Xiao, and at this point she's already starting to feel a bit outdated unless you have extra investment in her. If you do have a highly invested Fei Xiao, then sure, you can probably make the pairing work. Otherwise, the current Ashveil teams are mostly going to look like a generic crit DPS setups, where you give him your best supports and let him function more like a main DPS for now. That said, I do think Ashveil has pretty solid feature value. The big problem is that right now he has to compete with Elation, and the game's attention is very clearly leaning in that direction instead of toward follow-up teams. So even if you summon him, a lot of content and buffs in upcoming patches may not be designed with him in mind. That's a little unfortunate and it may make him feel weaker than he actually is. I would not be surprised if the game gives him a short spotlight period with some follow-up friendly content, then immediately goes back to pushing Elation again until his real partner eventually arrives. And honestly, I'm also pretty confident that he will get a rerun once that real follow-up DPS arrives. Because of that, pulling him now without already having a team for him could end up feeling really unnecessary. I would also add a little personal opinion in this section, since I am going to skip him as well. Me personally, I have a complete follow-up roster and I was a former user of the Fire team. I have Fei Xiao complete with her LC, but still decided to skip him because I know once his dedicated main DPS comes later, his banner will also be rerunning. And currently I want to focus and invest in just one Elation team, so I can say that I'm skipping him now without regrets. So those are the 3 main reasons plus my own personal thoughts for why people, including me, skipping Ashveil. Now let's talk about why someone might still want to pull him. From my perspective, outside of simply liking the character, there's really one clear reason to go for Ashveil right now. You already have Fei Xiao and her light cone, and you are also planning to pull Ashveil together with his light cone. The reason this matters is because Ashveil light cone was changed in version 4. It originally applied more defense threat, but now it gives vulnerability instead, meaning enemies take increased damage. That's actually a much better fit with Fei Xiao's light cone, which already ignores defense. Before this change, pairing Ashveil with Fei Xiao could result in too much defense reduction, going past the 100% cap and wasting part of the debuff. But now that Ashveil's light cone gives increased damage taken instead of more defense threat, that overlap issue is gone. The synergy with Fei Xiao becomes a lot cleaner and stronger. In addition, if you don't really care about his signature at all, because he's a hunt unit, he still at least has several usable options. You can run things like Dr. Ratio's light cone, Fei Xiao's, Topaz, or even the free hunt light cone that gives a lot of crit rate. So while his signature will obviously be his best in slot, I don't think it's mandatory at all, and at least his LC options would not be his weakness or a minus point. So if you already play Fei Xiao, then yes, Ashveil makes sense for your account right now, because he can directly improve her team's overall output. At least for the current state of the game, he basically functions as a big upgrade for Fei Xiao comps. That being said, based on the rumor from Mortis, Ashveil's actual long-term base partner still seems likely to arrive near the end of version 4. But hey, this could also be the reason why people still pull him. They put 100% of their trust in these archetypes after knowing this information. So outside of Fei Xiao teams, I really don't think there's much reason to chase him unless you simply like him and want him anyway. If you're a fan of the character, then that's a perfectly valid reason to pull, but from a meta or value perspective, Fei Xiao is the main argument for getting Ashveil, at least for now. For everyone else, if you are considering summoning Ashveil but also care about the anniversary characters and want to build around Elation, then I would honestly recommend skipping him for now. Even if you are interested in the future follow-up archetype, there's a good chance Ashveil will rerun alongside that future main DPS. I can't say with 100% certainty, of course, but it's going to make the most sense. Let's just see who the main DPS of his future team ends up being. By the time that character arrives, Ashveil will probably rerun soon after anyway, so you can always pick him later when his value is clearer. So I think that's all from Ashveil content. I hope this video will make you 100% sure to either pull or skip him. Now that the official version has launched, for those who pulled him, I want to know your opinion and first impression of him. Is he bad or is he good? If you enjoyed this content, please hit the like and subscribe button, turn on notification as well so you won't miss out on any of my style content. I will see you guys on my next one. Bye bye!